Welcome to the Earth's Edge podcast. I'm your host, James McManus. At Earth's Edge, we run guided expeditions with a focus on environmental and cultural sustainability. We created this podcast to share stories from people who have found the outdoors and fallen in love with adventure. Each month, we're giving away one of our summit jackets worth €150. To be in the running, all you need to do is subscribe to our mailing list at earths-edge.com/podcast. There's a link in the show notes. Now, for today's guest.
If you're looking for a change in your life, if you're looking for that kind of like, you need to make a few decisions, geez, what better way to do it than sort of put yourself through the ringer and come out the other side, and maybe you'll get the answer somewhere there in the middle.
You're listening to Brian Bateson, who started working for Earth's Edge back in 2016 and is now one of our most experienced guides. We talk about Brian's journey from working in an office in Dublin to starting his own climbing company and now working full-time in the outdoor industry. I start out by asking Brian about his background and how he got into the outdoors.
I'm originally from Kildare, from out in the sticks in Kildare. Went to school in Kildare and then went to college in Carlow and kind of dropped out after first year. Didn't really want to be in college and went to Dublin, started working in an office, and on and off worked in an office for about 10 years. Never really enjoyed it. Never really knew what I really wanted to do with myself, but had no other option. So I just kept doing the same old thing. And then when I was 30, I went to Lahinch and I went for a surf on my 30th birthday. And on the drive home, I kind of thought, you know what, there's got to be more to life than just working and making a few quid and going on beer. Kind of quit my job a few weeks later. Took a few months off, kind of took a circuitous route to getting into the outdoors. But yeah, took a few months off, did a bit of traveling. Moved to London for a while and worked with my brother. And then came home to Ireland and started working in the outdoors in a surf school. Sort of like just washing wetsuits and handing out rental boards and stuff like that. Hadn't the first notion about surfing, but yeah, I thought I did. But went back to college then that winter to train as an outdoor instructor, and kind of took it from there. Yeah, continued working for other people for about 4 or 5 years in the outdoor industry, and then set up working for myself, set up my own company, and yeah, that's been going for about 5 years now. Do a bit of work for myself and then freelance for people like Earth's Edge. So.
Did you like going on adventures when you were a kid, like growing up in Kildare?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, we would have gone over to Wicklow most weekends if my dad was off. He would have brought us over to Wicklow. We would just, I don't know, they'd have pitched up a couple of deck chairs beside the river, and let me and my brother sort of explore the forests and the hills and the river not too far from them. We definitely weren't going very high. When I think about it now, we were probably like 50 meters from the car. But, you know, when you're 6 and 7 and you're scrambling around the hills of Wicklow, you think you're out in the pure wild. Yeah, so definitely there was like a real love for the outdoors sort of passed down from our folks. And then when I was a teenager, we went to ACO, Outdoor Adventure Centre, as part of second year in school. And it was like a proper, school trip to an adventure centre. We went surfing, kayaking, bit of abseiling, some rock climbing, all that sort of stuff. I was definitely bitten by the bug then. I know I was, because I went back for my own the following summer. I went back sort of like my parents let me go to Ackle Adventure Centre on my own for 7 days. And then same thing again, hiking, orienteering, kayaking. And I kind of came back and was like, that's what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to be an outdoor activity instructor. But mid-90s in Kildare, like they're really, it just wasn't accessible. There was probably one college course in the country at the time. I didn't have a first clue about how to start or get into it. And then, just kind of suppressed that. I guess the country was starting to get into the Celtic Tiger around the end of the 90s. Jobs in offices in Dublin were like 10 a penny, and it just seemed like there was going to be good money in it and there was going to be a career in it. And I went with that instead. So yeah, it took me like 10 years. I didn't do anything throughout my 20s outdoorsy. Might have went to the gym to keep fit, but like literally nothing. Not one thing outdoorsy for my entire 20s. And then had this complete like revelation on my 30th birthday that I should have been doing this my whole life as opposed to other things.
So like, tell us about the kind of work you were doing in the office in Dublin, and then when you went to London, like what kind of stuff were you doing, and what was it that you didn't feel really agreed with you?
Well, I guess being indoors all day never really agreed with me anyway. I don't know how it took me 10 years to get there. But yeah, I just didn't like being indoors for a start. I'd worked part-time in a garden centre when I was a teenager as well. I really liked that. And in fact, I'd considered doing that as a career. I was going to be a gardener, like. I really, really enjoyed that. Really loved the outdoors. So yeah, I don't know why I went indoors for 10 years, but so definitely the indoor stuff definitely put me off. But then it just also seemed a bit like, I don't know, pointless. Like what was the point of it? You never got through your workload. You were working for this large, or I was working for this large business that, I was just another cog in the wheel. I didn't really see any value in the job itself or in me in that place. I need to feel valued in my work, or I need to feel like I'm appreciated in my work in order for me to actually thrive at work. Definitely, I was just working for a bank, and I was working for them in their legal department. But like I didn't have any other qualifications, didn't know what to do with myself, so kind of just stayed there. And then when I went to London, I was working for my brother. He's a builder, and I was working on building sites with him, which was a big shock from like 10 years sitting my ass in front of the computer to being on a building site. But I actually really liked it. I liked it because, it's a different place every day. You're meeting new people every day. There's a bit of physical labor involved in it. It's a real sense of satisfaction at the end of the day that you could see the tangible work that you got done, So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like working in the outdoors. You meet new people every day. You're someone new every day. Your work is tangible. There's a lot of parallels, but I don't think I was built for the building site. I'm not. I don't know. I'd take climbing mountains any day over working on the building site.
That's really interesting. So you were saying that like you got that first job in Lahinch and you were washing wetsuits. Like I think a lot of people in the outdoor industry, they've started at the bottom and done all those kind of sessions. I remember when I first started working as a kayak guide, I was so young. I was like the designated dude to wash the wetsuits every day, which is not the most glamorous job. But talk to me about your journey from there in the outdoor industry up to, starting Climate and what you're doing now, because it's something that we get asked a lot, and I get asked a lot from clients on trips, like who, maybe are working in an office and they're like, how do you get into this industry and work full time? Because everyone has a different route. So just be really interested to hear about your journey.
So yeah, I went back and started working in the surf school, Ben Surf Clinic in Lahinch. And like, I was under no illusion in my place in the company, the guy that washed the wetsuits and handed out the rental boards. Kind of like took a few bookings on the phone. I loved it. Like working with a real cool group of guys. Some of my best friends now. I live in Lahinch now, or I stayed in Lahinch after working. Bought a house here last year, so yeah, it's definitely my home for the rest of my life. But yeah, those guys are some of my best friends now. I guess I was lucky in that I had no mortgage. I had no dependents. I had no bills to pay other than my rent. So I could afford to like completely give up my job and go back and do this kind of like seasonal job. So yeah, I think with some people, they might have commitments, or they might think that they have commitments or a need to have a certain amount of money. I realized quite quickly, it's not like the surf school didn't pay me wages. I certainly got paid for my time there. I realized that I didn't actually need any money or so much material things in my life if I was just doing something that I really liked. Definitely I was making a few quid, but like money was never the point of it all. I was just really enjoying myself, and life was melting into work and work was melting into life. And it's kind of like just this cool time working in a surf school in the summer in the west coast of Ireland. It was really cool. Obviously there wasn't a career trajectory in just like washing wetsuits. So my boss at the time suggested, and my brother suggested, going to Kerry to do this course in Capinally Outdoor Adventure Centre. And it's like at the time it was a 1 year course. Now it's a 2 year course, but it basically gives you all your like basic mountain skills courses, basic rock climbing instructor, basic kayak instructor awards. So you get all the training and then get all the consolidation and then go back for your assessment at the end of the year and hopefully pass all your exams, and you'd be like entry level instructor, dude. You'd be kind of, but it was a place to start. But what I did, I went back to the surf school and worked for the season again. And then each winter I would go and get another qualification. So yeah, just working summers and maybe spring and autumn really hard, saving up money to do qualifications. And probably a short period of time, I got quite a lot of extra qualifications, like my mountain leader. Went on and got my mountaineering instructor award, or it's now called the mountaineering and climbing instructor. And around about the same time as I was doing that, I realized, I'm a bit too overqualified to work for someone else here. And also like I've very much specialized in mountaineering and climbing here, whereas working in an adventure center isn't going to give me the kind of work I want, or isn't going to use the skills that I learned or the knowledge that I learned to the best of its abilities. So I kind of figured the only place to go was to go out on my own. If I wanted to stay in Ireland, was to go out on my own. There are a couple of places in England where you would definitely get work in the UK, Wales, Scotland, England, where you get work as an MIA. But, in Ireland, you pretty much got to be a sole trader, working for yourself, I think, to make it work. The kind of rest is history. Bit of a slow start, bit of a long, slow start, as any company would be. But got a couple of lucky breaks along the way from yourselves. That was one of the pivotal things that sort of helped me in establishing the business and let me get my name out there a bit. Just slowly built up the business and my own client base. And it's taken off in the last year or two.
I find that sometimes people can do one of those outdoor education courses and start working in a centre. But what is it do you think that takes to kind of get on and get those extra qualifications, like your mountain leading, your climbing qualifications? Like, what would you say to someone who's, let's say, done those entry-level qualifications but wants to kick on and build a sustainable career in the outdoors, which is a really tough thing to do? Like, what would you think the key to that success is for you?
For me, it was always that I was like super passionate about climbing and mountaineering. Like, I was given advice early on that I shouldn't specialize, that I should try have lots of skills at lots of different activities so that I get work in a center. And for me, that was like too narrow a vision. That like there was definitely going to be a market for like a specialized person dealing to just that one area. So I was never a great kayaker anyway. I was never super passionate about it like I was about climbing. And I always remember when I was in those outdoor centers as a teenager, like I was influenced by the instructors who were super passionate. I wasn't so influenced by the ones that were just going through the motions of a day job. So I figured I'd try specializing. And I kind of knew at some stage I was going to have to go my own way and break off from the adventure center scene to do that. There's a few people, like I guess Ben in himself had done it with the surf school. He had come through the adventure center scene up in Connemara, Killary and Delphi, I think. And then he set up a surf school, and then he kind of, as he got bigger, he turned it into a bit more of an adventure center with other activities. But it was the surfing school that like really made his name. It's what he really enjoyed the most. So I kind of seen that model work for him, and I want to copy that model. I see a lot of people do these courses. They think that it's going to be one thing. They think that their working life is going to be one way, like they're going to be having fun kayaking or surfing or climbing all the time, when it's not that. Like, you're bringing other people doing these sports and you get to instruct and watch, but rarely does a good instructor actually get to participate in the actual activity themselves. They're so busy working. So I think people think it's going to be something other than it is, and then they might get a bit downhearted. So I think people might get into it thinking they want one thing and really they wanted another thing.
I think you need to have a passion for other people in our line of work. Really want to see them grow and develop is a key part of it as well.
That's not just about the personal for you as the instructor or the guide. It's got to be about like what you're doing for other people.
So come here, you're one of our most experienced guides now, man. How many trips have you done with Earth's Edge?
15, but in a short period of time, I would say, in probably 3.5 years.
Tell us how you came to work with Earth's Edge.
It's kind of funny. So this lady called Mary Fitz, lovely lady, she told me that she knew I was training for my ML, and she told me if I got my ML that I should get in touch with her friend James. And I was like, oh yeah. And she said, oh, he'll probably have a bit of work for you. I was like, cool. Well, I must speak to your friend James at some stage. Not knowing who James was, I went and got my ML and passed my mountain leader. And Mary bumped into me and she said, oh yeah, you must pass your details on to James. And I said, oh yeah, who's this James guy? Like, is he a one-man outfit or whatever? And she said, no, Earth's Edge. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, okay, I know that dude. Yeah, I know of him. She told me to message you on Facebook or something like that. Try to hook up a meeting. So I messaged you on Facebook, but I didn't add you as a friend, and I didn't realize that if you don't add people as friends, the messages go into some weird folder that like you didn't see. So you never replied to me, and I was like, oh well, screw him and his company. I don't want to go working for him anyway. He wouldn't even reply to me.
Yeah, I ghosted you, man. That's what happened.
But then a few months later, I think somebody recommended me to you. And you added me as a friend and the message popped up. I think that might be how it happened. At least that's the story you told me.
Yeah, that's it. No, for sure, man. Yeah, I was delighted to hear from you because that's just the way it is on those platforms. If you're not friends, it doesn't pop up. Yeah, and come here. So you said you've done 15 trips for us now at this stage. Tell us a bit more of that. What trips have you done and what's your favourite trip?
Cool. So everybody starts off with Kilimanjaro when they work for Earth's Edge. I think people know that. So that was my first trip. And for some strange reason, on that first trip, I loved it and enjoyed it so much that I kind of thought, you know what, I would love to do Kilimanjaro 10 times. And then for some even stranger reason, I made the mistake of telling people in the office that I wanted to do it 10 times. So I kept doing lots of Kilimanjaros to start with. I did quite a few early on. I think my first three were all Kilimanjaros. And then I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'll take a while before I do my fourth one. But I was reminded in the office that I wanted to do 10. So yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, keep sending me on Kilimanjaro trips. So considering it's my first one, and because I've done it so much, a real special sort of bond or sort of passion for that mountain. I was just like, I've seen so many people go through the emotions to, training beforehand, to going through the trip, to getting up on top of the mountain. It's definitely got a place in my heart in terms of a mountain and a trip and a journey for so many people. So the amount of friends I've made out in Tanzania, the local guys. So yeah, definitely that's got a place in my heart. But it's hard to pick a favorite one. I think you got to subdivide them into categories. If you want an out and out, non-stop, jam-packed adventure, yeah, go do Mount Kenya. Like you just don't get it. You don't get a moment where you're stopped. You're like, okay, we're off the mountain. Okay, we're on a mountain bike. Oh, we're off the mountain bike. We're on a safari drive. Oh, we're off the safari drive. We're on a campfire picnic. Oh, right. Well, now we're kayaking, or river rafting. It's crazy. It's so jam-packed. But then there's like Island Peak has been pretty special. Getting above 6,000 meters for the first time, getting a taste of what it might be like to do some higher stuff in the Nepalese greater ranges. Like it was pretty cool. Crampons, ice axes, crossing ladders and crampons, that sort of stuff. Definitely like a taste of bigger mountains, which definitely was cool. And then maybe some of the best trekking I've done would have been the approach to Stock Kangri. I just thought that was phenomenal. I just think that entire region of India. So I know you're going to Kanyatsi soon. But I think that entire region is just phenomenal to trek in. It's so quiet, so secluded, and so pretty. Yeah, it was definitely unexpected.
Yeah, for sure. I'd share that opinion, man. I love Ladakh. It's literally my favorite place to go hiking in the whole world. It just has everything, doesn't it? It's just so amazing.
The people are so beautiful. The scenery is beautiful. The culture, the history, everything. Yeah, the mountains are like off the charts. But yeah, if I've got to pick one, I'm going to say Kilimanjaro. Yeah. Just out of the passion I have for it. Yeah.
It's our local crews there as well. They really make it. I think a lot of people are planning to climb this big mountain and they're focused on their fitness, and it's hard to relate to someone who hasn't been there how special it is to meet those guys and spend time with them on the mountain. They're just incredible people.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you done our Choqquequirao trek in Peru yet?
I haven't. I was due to do it like 2 months' time. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's a special one as well, man. It's just I love that one. I'm really happy with the changes we've made to it. It's doable, but it's nice and tough. People know they've been on a tough multi-day trek, which is fantastic. What are your aspirations? Like, what trips do you want to lead for us? And then also tell me, like, personally, what ideas of big mountains you want to go climb with friends and that side of things?
I was due to be just back from Elbrus. Like when you were supposed to have gone and done something, and then you didn't get a chance to do it. I think there's this burning desire now to get it done, But above Elbrus, I think Aconcagua has me kind of, maybe since I started climbing, I don't know why. I've seen a few photos of it. But yeah, that's probably my dream trip for yourselves. Yeah, there's a few others, but yeah, I think Aconcagua is top of the list. Patagonia, maybe for trekking, would have been like super beautiful. That might be all-time personal destination list, but I know we're not going there anymore. But like definitely of the stuff we do, yeah, Aconcagua.
Have you any personal missions in the pipeline or things you're thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've so many missions, like the list never gets ticked, like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There's stuff closer to home. The Matterhorn, I think, would be on the list at some stage. Haven't got to do it yet. Haven't even got out that part of the world yet, that side of the Alps yet. One that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been asked to go on it on a trip to Amida Blam, I think 2 times now already, and I've turned it down. It's starting to grow as something I want to try and go and do. Well, it's always been something I want to try and do. I sort of feel like now I actually should start preparing to go out and do it. Been out there 3 times now. I've seen it 3 times. Kind of had a good look at it. Had a good long think about it. And it's definitely something I want to try and achieve with a couple of friends of mine. There's 2 or 3 friends we're chatting about doing it, trying to do it in a kind of a nice style. So I think we'd enjoy going out and doing Amida Blam. There's a few mountains in Peru pique my interest. No, I think I'll settle with, like, if I got the Matterhorn and Amida Blam done in the next 2 to 3 years, I'd be pretty happy with myself.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the listeners would have heard the Matterhorn. Just to explain a little bit of Amida Blam, it's just under 7,000 meters in Nepal, and it's widely considered the most beautiful mountain in the world. And you watch it almost every day on the Everest Base Camp trek. So all of us going out there guiding, we're always kind of looking at it and eyeballing it and kind of having a crack. I was actually supposed to go this November myself, man, but it got cancelled, obviously. But you know, it's not going anywhere, and we'll come through the COVID-19.
Yeah.
What is it like that you like about leading trips for us? Because you know, it is a dream job, really, like, when you think about it. But it's really tough at the same time. Like, I mean, you're working 24/7 for 12 days. You know, you work through a long summit night. But what is it that you love about the work?
Easily, it's got to be the experience of other people. Like, you can't describe to somebody, unless they've been there, what it's like to summit a big mountain. And when you see what people go through, like, I can think of certain people come to mind always in terms of the struggle they might have gone through. You know, maybe they're struggling a little bit along the way, or they're not feeling the fittest, and they're starting to let doubts creep into their mind, and then they have a really good summit night, or maybe they don't even have a good summit night, but they still get up to the top and the summit, and you meet them on the summit, you embrace, and you're kind of like, wow, this is just like, I know exactly what you're feeling. They're feeling it for the first time, maybe ever, and you're like, oh, I just know exactly what you're going through. And it's that kind of bond that you share with people. You start off, you don't know each other, you get to know each other a little. By the time you're on the summit together, you're best pals. You'd be hugging and kissing, and then you come down, you celebrate afterwards. It's just the journey, I guess. It's such a complete mini cycle of an experience, Definitely watching how much other people enjoy it, what they go through to get there. That's got to be the best part of the job. But then just to get to see loads of cool places, it's just like maybe somewhere that was never on my radar or my target was Annapurna Base Camp. And then I got to get out there last September, and or even Mount Kenya. Well, like, going back to Annapurna, it just blew me away. Just like to wake up at 6 a.m. and go out and watch the sunrise across a 4 kilometer high, 8,000 meter, 4 kilometer high face of an 8,000 meter peak. You're kind of going, wow, that's just, the scale is off the charts, and it's so beautiful. You're watching the sunrise for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, drinking a cup of coffee with about 17 layers on you. And you're just like, this is amazing. Yeah. Some of the things I've seen, just, where are you going to get to see them? I know these beautiful mountains at home and have great days out, but like, these are just world-class things that have happened, and to have seen them, firsthand.
Seeing the sunrise or the sunset even in the Himalayas is just, it's incredible, isn't it? It's a special thing. But yeah. I totally agree with you, man. I mean, most people that sign up to our trips, not most, a lot of them, like, they don't have any hiking experience, and they might decide after Christmas, let's say it's January, they're like, right, I need a New Year's resolution, and they sign up to Kilimanjaro for October that year. And like, the journey they go on, to have the gumption to book the trip, and then like, you're leading them up a mountain, and you turn around and this person maybe wasn't that fit at the start, and to see them trucking up behind you and making a summit is just, yeah, for me, it's the most special thing about our job, like, yeah. I have so much respect. Like, they're heroes for me. I think it's amazing what people can do. It's so impressive.
Yeah, just to see those people just get on with it, they're struggling a bit, but they just get on with it. It's so cool.
Let's take a break there for some quick fire questions. What was your first job?
Working in a bar in Kildare town.
What song is always on your workout playlist?
Probably Eminem.
What are you reading right now?
Oh, I just got that new Irish Peaks book. I haven't actually started reading it, but it looks really good. It's sitting in front of me here on the table.
If you were stranded on a mountain with one celebrity, who would it be?
Mike McCarthy, just because he's going to bring the phone.
Yeah, you can always rely on Mike for that, all right. What is your favourite food to eat on the mountain?
Bean curd curry, like a vegetarian curry that they make in India on the East Aconcagua trip. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like dream place to be a vegetarian. What's your favourite piece of kit?
It's got to be my bag, my Osprey bag. Anyone that's been on a trip with me will know that I'm a bit of a nerd about that bag.
What's your biggest pet peeve when travelling?
Probably trying to decide if I'm going to get vegetarian, or trying to figure out if I'm going to get good veggie food. Definitely veggie food. I've been a veggie.
If money wasn't a factor, what would you do all day?
Go rock climbing. Describe
yourself in 3 words.
Friendly, motivated, easygoing enough.
Tell us about some of your harder times or scary times guiding for Earth's Edge.
The hardest thing to do, and it doesn't happen very often, like out of the 8 trips I've done up Kilimanjaro, I've only had 2, and that's probably like 160 customers, maybe more, because I've worked with you in a big, large group. We've worked with a couple of other guides on large groups. So haven't always just done the like 16 to 1 sort of group size. I've done quite a couple of big ones. But on 3 occasions, I had to turn people back. And that's quite a small number, I guess, out of the overall number that's doing it. But each one of those people, like, when you think of what they had to go through, you think the effort that they put in, and then you're sort of like, you're the one that's like crushing their dreams essentially, even though, you know, it's obvious at that point that, you know, that they've either not done enough fitness wise, altitude's got them, or they were just like super sick or something, you know, whatever it might be. So it happens so rarely, but like, it's still a crushing thing to do. That's obviously the tough part, you know. You're the one that has to like make the final decision and be like, look, I'm sorry, you know, this is the way it's got to be. And yeah, trying to do it as nice as possible, you know. It's never nice, but yeah, because, you know, you want it so bad for people, and now all of a sudden you're the reason, you know, that they turn them down, not all the other reasons. Maybe like it can be a super stressful job as well, you know. On 1 or 2 occasions, maybe with flights, like kind of you're getting close to missing a flight, or maybe there's something with the airline that's like, oh, I don't know if we're going to make this flight, and that's going to mess up a few other things. And you're running after like, you're after doing quite a big mountain. You're already physically fairly tired. You're mentally fairly tired. It's getting towards the end of the trip, and now you're having to do this logistical stuff. And, you know, it starts to take its toll on you a little bit. But yeah, again, that's few and far between. And then the guys in the office usually have our backs on so many occasions there, where it's like, okay, kind of need your help here, and ring in. We're going to ring for support, and then you do get it. So, you know, that's cool. You're never on your own when you work for Earth's Edge. I don't know how many times I've WhatsApped another guide, be like, oh, you know, what do you think of this scenario? Do you think I should do this or that? And, you know, getting really good advice from the other guides that I work with, especially when I started off. They were really good to me. Louise, John Healy, Aaron, yourself, definitely got great advice from people. So sometimes it's all that, like, it can get quite heavy when you're physically depleted. But I guess that's the nature of the job, you know, and you get better at it. You manage it a bit better. Few and far between downsides when you compare them to the upsides of the job.
I guess we've all had failed summit attempts at different times, you know, and I think sometimes people can go out to climb something like Kilimanjaro with like, you know, I'm prepared, I'm all set, and I'm going to summit this thing, I can do it. And just sometimes, you know, whatever it is, they don't acclimatize very well, or there's, you know, they're maybe not as fit as they used to be, or, you know, it's happened to me. First time I was climbing a 6,000 meter peak in India back in 2004, I think. I didn't make the top, man, but you go out to a mountain, and hopefully if the mountain is feeling good, it'll let you up there. I think when we have a plan to definitely summit, no matter what, it can make our sport quite dangerous.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember getting a call from you. I think it was last year or the year before, when you were in Peru and you missed your flights, and I ended up sending you halfway around the world through Canada to get home. I was like, what a mission, you know? Yeah. Tell us a bit about that one.
So we turned up at the airport in Cusco. The local domestic airline that we were using was in the process of maybe going bust, but they weren't quite sure. And it had just been announced that morning that maybe they were going to go out of business, but maybe they weren't. But they had a sister airline, so they were like, well, we'll put you on that flight. But like, just getting information was super hard. I think we were like 5 hours sitting in the departures lounge before we got any sort of concrete information. But we had a 12-hour layover in Lima, so this is fine, you know. We still had a 7-hour cushion for like a 1 hour, 20-minute flight. So eventually we got onto this flight. The flight takes off. Somebody happened to turn on their Google Maps or something on the phone, and the flight was going in the wrong direction. It was going away from Lima to Bolivia to the border. And this flight stopped in the jungle out on the Bolivian border, and it picked up 6 people and then turned around and went back to Lima. So like the 1 hour 20 flight was now a 3-hour flight. And we got into Lima still with like, oh, we're going to make this work. And I'd say the gate had closed like, I'd say 10 minutes, like maybe 10 minutes anyway. We just lost so much time over the day. We just kept losing time at every available opportunity. So yeah, we were like, the gate was closed. There was no way we were getting on this flight. Every airline office was shut in the place. So it's like 9 o'clock in Lima, which is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for yourself. And I had to put in the phone call to you. Yeah, sorry, we've kind of missed our flights here. Obviously, you knew the situation was developing throughout the day, but I think we all just expected that we'd make that flight. We ran through a couple of options about, you know, do we get a hotel for the night, try to get a flight tomorrow, try to get the airline to honour it. But two separate airlines. It wasn't the international carrier's fault that we'd missed the domestic flight. It looked unlikely. So yeah, I remember we were just like, right, well, give me half an hour and I'll sort it. I was sitting there, all the customers went off, or half the customers went off to get McDonald's. The other half were sitting beside me going like, what are we going to do? And I was like, don't worry, we're going to sort it. I'm not quite sure how we're going to sort it, but we're going to sort it. And then this email came in. It was like 6 people are booked on a flight to Montreal with Air Canada. I was like, what is this about? Is this spam? Is it some sort of like hokey email? So I looked at it. I was like, oh wow, they've got 6 of my clients' names on this flight to Montreal. Right, it's actually from James. So next thing, another email came in. There was like 7 people booked on the next flight, and all 17 of us were heading to Montreal about 3 hours later. So no overnight or no stay in Peru. We were actually leaving like 3 hours after this time, So yeah, we took a circuitous route home. We got to Montreal. We had to wait in Montreal for the best part of, I think, 8 or 9 hours. Then we had to go to Toronto, and I'm pretty tired. So if people know Canada better than me, maybe we went to Toronto first and then Montreal, but I think it was Montreal, Toronto. On that flight, we had to split into 3 different flights. So 3 different flights brought us from Montreal to Toronto. So the first 2 went out, no problem. They were in Toronto waiting for us at the gate. And then me, the doctor, Adele, and one of the customers, John, were sitting on this flight going, okay, well, at least we can switch off, this whole debacle's over. And then it just stopped on the runway before it took off. And yeah, there was a problem with that flight. The other guys have already landed at Toronto. We still haven't taken off in Montreal or something like this. So there was a last little bit of hecticness to the trip. But yeah, we all got in. The flight landed at like gate 43, and we were departing from gate 44. So they actually let us run around to meet our next flight rather than making us go through the whole check-in process. And we all got on the flight to come home. It's pretty hectic to be honest. Yeah.
It was a proper mission, man. I feel the same way as well. Like, I think from the time you meet everyone in the airport in Dublin, you get them to the destination, right up until the point where you start trekking, there's so many different variables between flights, buses, hotels. There's just a lot of stuff that's not in your control and can potentially go wrong. And once you get guys onto the start of a trek or a mountain, it's kind of like, okay, it's just me, and the other variable really is the weather. You're a lot more comfortable in that environment. Airlines, man, they can be absolutely amazing, but then sometimes they can just really screw you over sometimes, often through no fault of their own, but it's just stressful, isn't it, going through airports? Oh my God.
For sure, the logistical side of it is definitely one of the harder sides. Like you say, when you're on the mountain, you're like, okay, I know this, I got this is dependent on us and the weather. Yeah, everything outside of your control is stress as well, yeah. Or can be. Sometimes it goes swimmingly. Sometimes you get upgraded to first class,
Yeah, sometimes, man. Sometimes.
Or you do, I don't.
Oh, look, my name got picked out of a hat. Like, Brian and I were working together on a Kilimanjaro trip, and we fly there with Ethiopian Airlines, and we have a very good relationship with the airlines. So they bumped me up to first class. So I felt great about it. I told Brian I felt really bad, but, perks of the job,
Yeah.
You've met some amazing people. Like, do you feel it's a transformative experience for I guess not everyone, but do you feel it's a transformative experience to come on one of the expeditions for people?
Yeah, I can think of specific cases or specific people who've definitely changed their life after it without getting too like, this is airy fairy and life changing. Well, like it literally has been for some people. I know one person in particular. He was a client of mine on my 4th Kilimanjaro trip. He kind of struggled a bit. He got to the summit, he struggled a bit, didn't have the best of time. And I haven't met him since, but I met somebody from that trip recently who's still in touch with him. They said the guy's lost about 5 stone. He's given up drink. He's into training the whole time. He changed jobs because he didn't like his job. It was like, and completely changed his life around, and like super motivated by getting into the outdoors and going training now all the time, which it's a great change to make. And a real nice guy too. Like I really enjoyed his company, so it's kind of cool to see that he picked up the ball and ran with it. And there's others, like that's just the first one that came to mind because it was a real recent conversation I had. But like so many people I've met, they're like, okay, I've had time to think, maybe away from my phone, away from TV, away from the office, away from work, away from maybe even family members or partners, whatever it might be. And they just get so much time to think. It might be the first time in their adult lives that they've got like this time to reflect, hiking all day, Some people love to chat all day. Some people love to keep to themselves. Some people love to do a little bit of both. But like, definitely the time to reflect is on those trips. My most recent trip, I know it was just before lockdown. We got out to Kilimanjaro. And I definitely know there was people on that trip who were like, okay, I've got to make some positive changes and changes in my life. To me, it was the lack of distraction that made them come to that decision. You know, you don't have your phone for the most part. You might have your phone, but like, you're only playing solitaire on it because you're not getting internet connection. So you're probably listening to a few pre-downloaded podcasts. Yeah, other than that, you're not getting internet for the most part. So it's great. You know, you don't have these distractions we have so much in everyday life. You know, you don't have to worry about putting the bins out or paying car tax or stuff, you know. It's all there waiting for you when you get home. But, you know, for the time being, it's on pause. If you're looking for a change in your life, or if you're looking for that kind of like, ooh, I need to make a few decisions, geez, what better way to do it than sort of put yourself through the ringer and come out the other side, and maybe you'll get the answer somewhere there in the middle.
You know, you've been away with a lot of people now. Like, if you could give some tips or a top tip to someone who's like thinking about doing something, a big mountain or a long trek, and, you know, what advice would you give them, or what mistakes do you see people commonly make, or what top tips would you give people thinking of doing a big climb or long trek?
So the first thing I would say is you don't have to be some super athlete to go and do these things. You don't have to be like doing a triathlon every second weekend, but you do need to be fit. The fitter you are, the more you're going to get out of it. You know, like if you're struggling a little bit every day and looking at your feet, well, then you're not looking at the beautiful scenery around you or having the chats to the people in the group. So by all means, the fitter you are, the better it's going to be for you. So while you don't have to like buy the €2,000 bike and start cycling like every night after work, just keep doing a little bit of training all the time to work up to your trip, you know, especially cardio stuff. I see people doing the wrong type of training, like lifting weights for their upper body. It's not really going to help you as much as pounding out the pavement, jogging or cycling or swimming or just going for a hike. You know, the best training for being on a mountain is going on a mountain and doing it back to back, day after day. So, you know, if you did 3 hikes in 3 days on a bank holiday weekend, it's probably going to be way better than lifting weights. It's definitely going to be way better than lifting weights in the gym. But, you know, everyone can't get to the gym, get to the mountains every day. So do what you can in the gym or in your house before you go out, and just really focus on that, like solid fitness. Like, you'll have a way better time. Buy the right gear. I know a lot of people sort of look at the price of things sometimes and say that's expensive. When you add it to that, that's expensive. But if you're miserable because you didn't buy the right gear, well, then what was the point of spending all that money on the trip in the first place? You know, so borrow it, rent it, buy it, whatever you do. Just make sure you turn up with good gear. Take the advice of people that are take the advice of your guide. I see a lot of people handing out advice on forums after doing one trip, and it's what worked for them. But like, the advice from me would be stuff I've seen over nearly probably 300 clients on 15 trips. So I've seen what works for everybody, or for the most part works for everybody. So, you know, my advice might carry a little bit more weight than the person that's done the trip once. Who's giving you that advice, and is there much credence behind it? Just try to do the fundamentals well. I see people as well on forums who are like, oh, I'm going to take this supplement because it's supposed to help you with altitude, and I'm going to take this because it helps with altitude. It's like, if you rest or sleep really well, so like, okay, some people struggle to sleep soundly, but like, if you don't get freaked out about that, you just close your eyes and rest and relax, well, then your body's recuperating. So if you rest and relax overnight really well when you're in your tent, then that's one of the fundamental cornerstones to recovering for the next day. You got to drink loads of water, and you got to eat loads of food. Your calorie intake is massive. It's increased massively. And you got to eat appropriately. And then your water intake, the same. So I think if you do those 3 foundations really well, then most people have a good time. But if you start scrimping on one, like if you start cutting back on your food because your tummy's a little bit unwell, and you're like, well, I don't know if I can get this down me. It's like, well, have you tried getting it down? You know, like, have you tried getting these calories that you need into your body? So you kind of have to push yourself a little bit physically, but also push yourself in the uncomfortable zone of, yeah, my stomach's a little bit weird, but, you know, I've got to eat, I've got to get calories inside me. Food, water, sleep. If you do that right, well, then your trip's going to go fine, I think. I'm no athlete by any means. I'm no like physical beast, but like, I'm really, really good at doing the basics well. I'm really good with just getting on with it. And when I'm sick, I eat. And I get sick too from time to time, but I do eat. I don't skip on the calories. I drink my water. Sometimes I'm like, oh, of all the stresses of this trip in the world going on in my head in the tent at night, it's like, I'm going to listen to some music, and I'm going to try to get some rest. because if I don't, well, then there's going to be more stress tomorrow when I'm tired and stressed. So yeah, just those fundamentals are the big three for me.
That's great advice, man. Thanks for that. Tell us a funny story from one of your trips at Earth's Edge.
If anyone ever has the pleasure of going on a trip with Marion Timmons, go on a trip with Marion Timmons. She is a regular client in Earth's Edge, and she's a one-woman comedy show. She's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I just, from the moment you meet her, the moment you leave her at the airport, she's just going to be having you cracking up. Personally though, oh yeah, actually on Marion's trip, I went to stock Kangaroo with her. I had a suspect bit of food in Dublin airport and got food poisoning in Dublin airport. It sort of kicked in by the time we landed in Amsterdam, heading on to India. And yeah, so I wasn't feeling really good in Amsterdam. By the time we boarded our flight to India, I wasn't feeling great at all. I was sweating pretty hard and I wasn't very coherent. But, the doctor was beside me, Sarah, and she was like, yeah, it's okay. Just, sit in there beside me, you'll be fine. Once the flight takes off, you'll be fine. But the air stewardess and the air steward, they thought it after stopping in Amsterdam and taking a lot of drugs or something like that. So they actually were asking me, did I want to leave the plane and spend the night overnight in Amsterdam? I had like 15 clients behind me saying, no, it's fine. This guy's fine. He's totally fine. Yeah, no, it's grand. He's our trekking guide. He's going to be looking after us. You can't get him to leave the plane. But I could barely speak to the guy. I couldn't make eye contact with him. So yeah, that's kind of funny in a weird way.
Oh my God, that's hilarious, man. That'd be a funny call back. Like, I'm stuck in Amsterdam. If you call in the office to say, yeah, the clients are gone on without me, I'm still here, I'd be like, what?
He wouldn't let me leave.
Yeah, Marion, I've met Marion a few times. I haven't been on a trip away with her yet, but she's coming to Kangyatsy in India with us in August 2021. So I'm really looking forward to being away on a trip. I've heard she's absolutely mighty crack, so that's going to be fantastic. Brian, your business, climate.ie, seems to be going from strength to strength. Congrats on that. Tell the listeners what kind of services you provide.
Cool. So I do a lot of different mountaineering and climbing sort of style courses. So if you wanted to learn like mountain skills, navigation, I would do that. Learning how to use a map and compass for the first time, let's say. Bring that on to if you want to become a mountain leader, lead other people in the hills. So I do ML training. I provide that. I do a lot of rock climbing instruction as well. So people who want to learn how to transition from the indoor climbing gym to the outdoor trad climbing scene in Ireland. So a lot of learn to lead trad climbing stuff. Do a lot of rock climbing instructor training courses, training people up to be instructors. Bit of mountaineering work as well. So maybe instructional work where people want to get self-sufficient in the mountains, want to learn how to basic rope work for mountaineering and scrambling. And then also I do a lot of guiding work where I might bring people rock climbing on sea cliffs or guided scrambling and climbing on Howling Ridge in Carntuil. That sort of work. So it's a real mixed bag, which I think I need. Obviously, I do the guided hikes for yourself, the guided expeditions for yourself. I don't actually work for any other company. It's really just yourselves that I work for freelance. Few and far companies in Ireland that I want to work with. Yourselves are one of them. But yeah, kind of a mixed bag, trekking, guiding, hiking, mountaineering, climbing.
People who are thinking of climbing a big mountain like Kilimanjaro, they can get in touch with you for some pre-training.
Absolutely, yeah. So what I love doing is teaching people how to use a map and compass themselves so that they can go and climb loads of different mountains to get preparation for a mountain like Kilimanjaro. I do a bit of guided hiking as well, where I bring people out on guided hikes. But it's kind of the thing, I actually get a lot of satisfaction out of making people self-sufficient so that they can, use all the mountains in Ireland to train rather than just like knowing one mountain. Maybe people know the Spink in Glendalough really well and just do the Spink over and over again, which, you'll get fit, but you might get a little bit bored of it after a while. So definitely, people can get in touch with me if they're thinking of getting into the bigger mountains and want to train or want the direction to go in. And even if I can't bring them out myself, there's like a network of our guides who I'm always happy to answer people's emails or point them in the right direction if I can't do it.
So if there's someone working in an office right now and they're like, I want that guy's job, tell us a little about a typical week at climate.ie.
Okay, so last week, what did I do? I went to Connemara and I taught mountain leader training courses, 2 separate mountain leader training courses over about 5 days. So a lot of day courses. There was a couple of night navigation where I was teaching people how to navigate in the dark. And then an overnight camp to finish it off where we camped up over Killary Ford on a mountain. Then Monday, I was teaching a one-to-one course, actually with an Earth's Edge client, a guy called Mark O'Flaherty, who'd been to Everest Base Camp with John last year. and he's interested in getting out on getting self-sufficient in mountaineering. So I was teaching him a one-to-one sort of anchor building rock climbing course. And then yesterday I was teaching a group of people here from Clare that exact same course, all indoor rock climbers who want to become self-sufficient and be able to set up their own systems and not hire a guide or rely on friends. And I'm off today, thankfully, because it's been 7 days in a row and it's tough enough on the body. Tomorrow I'm going down to do Howling Ridge on Cairntoul with Connor that used to work for yourselves. Very varied work from navigation to rock climbing to mountaineering in the space of a week.
Amazing, man. And just for the listeners, just give us a shout out to your website and different social handles.
My website is climbit.ie. My Facebook profile then will be just climbit. My Instagram page is at Brian_Bates. Yeah, the guys in the office and I'm not great with the old tech.
You and me both, man.
I got an Instagram tutorial from Elle over the phone prior to one trip. I think it might have been Annapurna, where she actually showed me how to use stories on Instagram.
Elle, the listeners might know, she runs our operations, so she's the brains and the manpower behind all of our expeditions. But because we're not running trips right now, she's doing our social media. So she likes to let on that she doesn't know much about it, but she's an absolute wizard. She's really, really good at it. So yeah, she's always showing me pointers. Not that I use social media myself too much, thankfully, but Brian, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed our chat.
Cheers. Thanks, dude. Thanks for having me.
This podcast was produced by Earth's Edge. We're a small business based in Ireland who organise big adventures all over the world. For more information about us and the trips discussed on this podcast, visit earths-edge.com or follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to sign up to our mailing list to be in the running to win one of our summit jackets. There's a link in the show notes. And while you're there, if you could subscribe and review the podcast, that'd be brilliant. I'm your host, James McManus. Thanks for listening and have a super week.